Whoa, what's up? Whoa, what's up, y'all? What's up? What's up? What's up? This is Akio. I wanted to come at you guys in a different setting, in a different atmosphere. Today is Tuesday, May 27th, and it is On The Run Chronicles. I wanted to talk about the incident that could have went left, um, but my steps were ordered. Many times where, you get into a funk and you're wondering how you got out of it. And it couldn't have been nothing more than the grace of God. On one of the incidences, I remember when I was on a run, I would come home every once so often for the holidays. And it got to a point where, I would still attempt to go to my mom's house, even though she didn't want me there, because at the time, it was a detective, as I explained into previous videos, that he was telling me that I had to do my time. This is before I had a conversation with him, you know, when he was looking for me, when he visited my mother. But at the time, my mother, she had downsized. And I remember she moved out of the house that when the feds had raided the house. Um, my twin sister, and my older sister, we were all living out of town. My older sister was living in North Carolina. My twin sister was living in Atlanta, I believe, at the time, or North Carolina, because my twin sister went to Wake Forest. And me, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and then I eventually went back to Baltimore for a little bit, not even a month, and then I fled to go back to Spokane because I wasn't ready to take care of my charge. But every once in a while, I would visit home for the holidays, and I remember I had visited home, I think in 2006, and I was in the kitchen, and my mother was at work, and I remember looking out the blinds, and I seen this shorty walk up the street and with these gray sweatpants on. And I remember, trying my shot. I was like, oh snap! I heard I threw some clothes on. You know what I mean? And I tried to catch her. So I walked up this hill, and when my mother moved to at the time, she moved in the Sedonia area, which is a nice area. It was right across the street from this church, this big mega church called Mount Pleasant Ministries. And I remember walking up the street, and it's a nice area. At the time, it was a very nice area. It still is a nice area now. It's a lot of grass, but everything is spread it out in Baltimore City. You know what I mean? Anything is liable to happen in the county or in the city. But anyway, as I'm walking up this hill, I see this guy with trench coat, like different. We call them dope dealer jackets at the time, but it was like a militant army jacket, but it was a black long trench. He was wearing that, and he was also wearing a Cincinnati cap with a permanent marker crossing the sea. And he was having baggy clothes walking towards me. I was looking for the girl, didn't see the girl, but I just kept on walking, not thinking of it, nothing of it. And I remember as I got closer to him, G checked me. You know what I mean? Yo, size me up. And he was like, yo, what's popping? And I was like, yo, what's popping? You know what I mean? And I remember before I continue, I remember when my cousin Jazz told me to kind of he told me to forgive me. I just realized something. I've been looking at this side the whole time. I need to be looking at this side. So I might start this video over again if it don't come off too good. We'll see. But forgive me. But my cousin Jazz told me before I went to Phoenix, Arizona, that I needed to change my lingo up because I was saying words that was that he said that this a gang had used a lot, and at the time that was Baltimore slang. It's this comic book that Nike had issued about how Baltimore State Air Force One. In the very first page that you turn, it was like, "Hey cousin, do you remember when Baltimore State Air Force One?" So cousin, I believe, is a Baltimore word. You know what I mean? It was known to be a Baltimore word. So I used to say cousin or cuz a lot. And I'm glad at the time that I changed my lingo up just in time, because the person who approached me was part of the Paru gang. He approached me. He was just like, "Hey, yo, what's popping?" I was like, "What's popping?" Like, because at the time Dipset was out, so a lot of people were saying, "Well, what's popping?" A lot of New York people was like, "What's popping?" So I was like, "What's popping?" He said, "Nah, yo, what's popping?" He looked at me with a stern look, and I was like, "Yo, I don't know what you talking about, dog." And he was like, he looked me up and down. He was like, he did like a double take. He was like, "Where you get them shoes from?" And I was like, "Yo, I made them." And when I said that, he wasn't expecting that response. He was like, "Yo, you made them?" I said, "Yeah, y'all made them. I made the shirt I got on. You know what I mean? Um, this B hat that I got. You know what I mean? I just came back from over west. Over there, they don't have Baltimore Orioles hats, so I just got the Boston hat, the red B, just to represent Baltimore." And when I said that to him, he was like, "Yo," he like took a deep breath. He's like, "Yo, my bad, yo, my bad." He was like, "Yo, I'm tripping, I'm tripping, I'm tripping, yo, my bad, yo. Listen, check this out, bro." He said, "Yo, what's your name, yo?" I said, I told him my name. He said, "Yo, my name is so and so." I don't remember his name. He said, "But you know what I am, yo?" I said, "Nah, what?" He said, "I'm a bounty on my squad. I represent 410 Homicide Power." And he said, "Our slogan is, if you don't know your shit, excuse my language, if you don't know your shit, we blow your shit." And when he said that, he pulled out a wood grain handle, 25 wood grain handle. It was chrome. He was like, "I would have straight popped you because if you would have said the wrong shit out your mouth." But I'm tripping, dog. "Yo, you're a designer, man. You're an artist." He shook me. He said, "Where you on your way to?" I said, "No, I was about to head up the store." He said, "Me too." "Man, let's get up a few blunts and roll up and get high." I was like, "All right, bet, whatever." And I ain't even want no. After he showed me the Glock, I was like, "I'm out to just kick it." Now keep in mind, I had a tire on, but I wasn't planning on that. Stepping out the house. The shoes that he seen that I had on was these Scarface Air Force Ones, and it was the mids. The mids is this the strap that's not removable. And I remember the Fabulous song had came out in 2005, and it was called "Keeping It Gangster." And at this time, it was 2006, so it was like a year after it released. And I walked into the store, and then I had my camera on me, surprisingly. And was like, "Yo, you know what I mean? I want you to holler at some of my peoples, man." So then he had put on the chirp, and I had the camera on me, so I whipped the camera out and I was filming it. And back in the day when you film, sometimes the chirp interferes with the analog camera. You know what I mean? When you're filming a Sony High 8, it's like when you try to chirp or when you call, it's like a interference with the, I don't know, the antenna, something like that. So it was kind of weird. So anyway, uh, captured them in motion, and they was just talking about me possibly going around their way to film some of their homies, and they was like, "Yo, we gonna put you on the mission, yo. You know what I mean? We want you to go around Huffman, film some of the homies. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean, and whatever." I was like, "Okay, cool." You know what I started to do, y'all? What do you think I started to do? I started to just, all right, whatever, yo. You know what I mean? And go about my business, right? Because I just randomly seen this guy. Who's to say if I don't go down there, I don't have to go see him. I don't have to see him again. So when he walked me to the bus stop, I thought he was getting on there with me. Excuse me. The bus came. He was like, "All right, yo, holla at the homies, this and the third. I see you." You know what I mean? I was like, "You ain't going with me?" He was like, "Nah, yo, this your mission." What? So I get on the bus. I already know where it was at. You know what I'm saying? I used to be around that way. Get off, and I walked to where he told me to go to, and there was nobody on the corner. And it's funny because it was the same corner where I shot this video with the Kid Moo, called "You Can Be a Hater." If you check that on YouTube, the Kid Moo, that's DA Kid MOO. That's that corner where we were. Um, and he bleeped me. He was like, "Yo, where you at?" I said, "I'm around the corner. Ain't nobody out here." He said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Give it a second." And then next thing I know, all these people just came out of nowhere. And I whipped the camera out, started filming them. They was at ease. And all I know, you know what I mean? They had did what they did. They threw up the signs and did a whole presentation. And they was like, "Yo, he cool, man. He cool. You know what I mean? We need to holler at that star right there." Using all this lingo. And after I dapped a few of them up, you know what I'm saying? One of them was like, "Yo, we need to holler at that 5 star." I guess they was referencing to me as like recruiting me or something. And then for whatever reason, I don't know how, but I was like, "All right, y'all, I'm gonna holler at y'all, man." And then I just walked around the corner. I hollered at my peoples that lived around the corner to play it off. And then I got on a bus. I thought that I would never see them individuals again, but I feel like I completed the mission. You know what I mean? I seen them one more time. And I remember the guy was like, "Yo, yo, we need to get you on set for real, bro." I was like, "What you talking about on set? I think you know what I'm talking about. We need to get you on." I was like, "Nah, dog." I said, I don't even live here. I live in, Spokane, Washington. I'm out there." He said, "Well, that's good. You know what I'm saying? You could bring it out there with, you know what I mean?" I said, "Nah, yeah, I'm good, G." He was like, "Nah, I don't think it's an option." I said, "Well, yo, for real, before I go out there, I'm going to my sister's, graduation in North Carolina." And he was like, "Yo, exactly. We try to spread this thing out." And yo was just not getting it. So I remember at that point, I was just like, "All right, I need to just stay away from these dudes," because it was just something that was happening that I just didn't want to actually just continue to do, because I knew that I had other, things that was pending against me, meaning like charges. Remember, I was telling you about the warrants. Like, this is On The Run Chronicles. So what I look like being out in the open when, you know, and I remember one of the last weeks that I was in Baltimore. I remember me and my mother, we went to the market, and at this time my mother wasn't driving, so we decided to go to the grocery store. And when we went to the grocery store, I see this car that looked familiar, but it was the tents. And I seen homie, and I see his homeboy. His homeboy wasn't talkative, but the homie that was driving, he was more so the guy that was the pup. That was like that was the pup of the individual that was in the passenger seat. And I remember him seeing me and my mother with this stern look. And the last time I seen him was when they wanted to actually have me on set or repping their set. And then at the time, the green light happened, and my mother was talking casually, like she didn't even know what was going on. But what I seen from where I was sitting at, I remember I seen like a rifle, something like a shotgun, like laying on your lap, and I was just like, yo, it reminded me of the scene of Baby Boy, when Snoop Dogg was looking at Jody like that, and I was like, yo, what in the world? But I just try to play it simple and clean, and they just kept it moving, and I was like, yo, what if I didn't go down there with the camera? What if I didn't have a camera? What if I didn't go down there with a camera to film them as a diffusion? But what if I didn't have a camera? And that's what I'm saying as far as like your gift will make room for you. Like, here it is. You ask my homie Jazz, I used to document everything. I used to take the camera with me everywhere. And that was the same camera that I actually took from Target when I was a teenager. I had multiple cameras. And it's individuals that's out here that is connected to gangs or they're connected to cliques. Because Baltimore, we ain't known for gangs. But now, as time passed on after 2006, because the incident happened in 2006, now, things have expanded, outside the jails and so on and so forth. And it was a time where after the gangs started getting heavy in Baltimore, they made it a federal offense that you can't flag. So then people got smart. They started actually wearing kufis with the colors. And they said, hey, okay, if you flag, then it's a federal offense off the top, and you have to do a couple of years. And they, so that's how they was able to, I guess, eliminate it from spreading as it would relate to. But I feel like it's always ways around it. But when I had went to my sister's graduation, and then after I went to my sister's graduation, I went back to Spokane, where I was at, where I had my store, Uptown 410. I just was like, yo, it's good that I'm out here right now. It's good I'm out here developing a gift of filmmaking because I was utilizing footage. That's why I learned how to edit. And I had that escape. But there's some kids out here that don't have that escape. Now, of course, now we got cameras in our pocket. At the time when I had a video camera, it wasn't like it was a big thing when you had a video camera. But anybody got a phone. But even now, having this phone is not enough. Now you might have a top of the line camera, a film camera, but there's not too many people not too many kids that is exposed to actually even demonstrating or actually even being able to expose themselves to another skill set, which is filmmaking or photography or cinematographer. So they're out here actually picking and choosing what's right in front of them. And it's very unfortunate because, the guidance and the things that individuals can be actually doing instead of doing the things by default. And it reminds me each and every time where I remember now was speaking to the kids in Cleveland, Ohio, the teenagers that were in juvie who had actually committed some serious crimes. Some may or may not see uh, the light of day. Some will. And the individuals that will, I just hope that they might not have a camera in their hand. They might not have a paintbrush in their hand, but I hope that they are giving an opportunity or an outlet to actually see that they can actually create a new change in their life. Because if you don't have anything that's right in front and center that you can actually do, you can succumb to the same mistakes. But with the right information, it can change that situation. And yeah, I'm not sure if if I didn't have those tools, or if I didn't have that hobby, would I be talking to you today? Would I have been a different circumstance? I'm sure it would have been. So, I'm going back to Cleveland, Ohio in July to speak to the kids. And just this past Artscape, I promised the kids that I would exhibit their work, and I was able to do that. The ones who, was locked behind the walls in Cleveland, Ohio. But I'm just grateful how God is able to use me in my story. So I look at it like this, man. Dropping these videos is not more so for me. It's not for me to just be consistent. It's to leave um, some type of traction on here when I'm not able to be in the classrooms. I'm not able to be at two places at once. I'm not able to be at this city or this state. But what I can do is I can leave a digital footprint for people to access, so that way I can be in their rooms when I'm not necessarily able to be present with that kid. And I feel like that's what this is. It's a purpose that's bigger and beyond me. And it's not on the surface level of becoming an influencer or a motivational speaker. This is all testimony. I'm being able to be raw and intimate, one on one conversation with me. I attempted to share the video that I posted yesterday on my story on IG, and I deleted the post because every once in a while I might share a little bit. I might share like, okay, this is a video I dropped, but I don't share any of these videos. I can count on my one hand how many videos I shared from this series, because I want to connect with an intimate, um, significant amount of people. I was just talking to Kaylee about this, my sis Kaylee about this just today, and I'm so grateful that she's receiving it well, and she's just found the series, and that's what I want. Because sometimes we look at things that's in front of our face all the time, and we don't tap in. That's a society that we live in. We grow comfortable with normalcy. We grow comfortable with what we see every day, and we shouldn't do that. That's the thing about with human beings. We grow comfortable with one another, and then, we should always be growing. I should be allowing things to, I should be able to pour into you, and you should be able to pour into me. Over time, there's going to be disagreements. There's going to be trials and tribulations. But we should always look at it from a perspective is how are we growing? Because if not, we can walk into a situation similar to what I did, and sometimes you might not be given the tools to get yourself out of it. But if you are given tools, it's best that you use them and not let them remain dormant, because it could be a matter of being if you're getting out the situation or you're staying stuck right where you are, and it might not be a way out right after that. And other people would be affected. Like my mother could have been affected if I didn't go down there. And I thought it was all cool. I could have got comfortable. I thought it was all cool. I was like, you know what, man, they want me to go down and film the homies. I ain't doing that. He said, no, you on a mission. And if I did not, even though it was small, but if I didn't fulfill that mission, is what they called it, that mission. Oh no, yo, he didn't even do the mission. And then when I seen both of them in the car, when they seen me and my mother, and Mayman was on the passenger seat with that rifle, with that shotgun, and that was like a day or two before I had to leave to go back to Spokane, Washington, because I was still on the run. What do you think would have happened? But God gave me tools. He gave me a slingshot. He gave me a rock. And I slain Goliath with my tools, with my camera, with my gift. And that's how I'm 9 times out of 10, through the grace of God, I'm able to speak to you today. And I have many stories like that. So I say to you today, hopefully that this video on the Run Chronicles have touched you in a way. Hope you learned something. And I hope I'm thankful for you guys who have been tapping in. My voice is getting better, and I'm grateful for that. But I got an announcement to make. I do have these Woo t-shirts that will be dropping tomorrow. You know what I mean? So be on the lookout for that. If I am able, I will add the link. I will update the shopping link in the description as soon as I upload this to the site. So those who watch this, you'll get first dibs. Before I even put it on the site, I already got a few pre-orders. You know what I mean? So you get this. I might have a cutoff time. I'm gonna have a cutoff in between how many will be produced. It's gonna be 1 through 50. So I encourage you to be one of those ones. If you see this, if you're in Baltimore, if you've seen that video that I gave this to the mayor, and he said he's gonna wear this to the Woo concert, and I didn't know about this when I created this. When I put this on this canvas that I created, the Be More canvas, that has the Wu-Tang bird that I designed in 2017. I was not aware that Wu-Tang was coming to Baltimore. And as a matter of fact, that tour, the start of the tour, Baltimore is the first city that they're touring. How ironic is that we're kicking off the tour here in Baltimore, and here it is. I created this in 2017, but I repurposed it a couple of weeks prior to them coming to Baltimore. Alignment, being in your gift. Your gift will make room for you. That concludes today on The Run Chronicles. Thank you for tapping in. Peace.